Hi everyone, I'm Emily. I am the creator of the Hicks and Draconis tabletop role-playing game and the Weapons Grade Funk tabletop gaming company and trans woman. And I wanted to take a minute to actually talk about some stuff that I'd written and how it kind of pertains to the subject of queerness, since I have a really great segue available to me here. So if you haven't played this before, this is my tabletop RPG. This is Hicks and Draconis. It's in a second edition. It has multiple hardcover additions to it. So this one is kind of your Dungeon Master's Guide slash monster manual. And this one is purely a lore book that has all kinds of story elements in it. And of course there is your core rules, which also includes a whole lot of story setting and a whole lot of just absolutely gorgeous full color artwork in it. And this has been a ongoing project now. First edition came out about 10 years ago. Second edition came out somewhere around 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. This expansion over here came out maybe 2 or 3, probably something like that. Which means, if you've done your math properly, that this began before I transitioned and has continued to a state after I've transitioned. And following my thought process through it has been a really phenomenal journey. When this project began, I was trying to create a setting that was a really big sandbox that had a whole lot of elements that I knew that I liked, that I wanted people to play with, but I wasn't necessarily sure specifically why I liked them or why they resonated with me. I was kind of hoping to create a place that I could see who would enter it, who would stay, and try to track the commonality amongst those people. And what I ended up building was an environment that had a whole lot of elements of body horror, a whole lot of elements of active surgical transformation, a whole lot of elements of kind of astral terror, kind of back of the mind fuckery, and various elements of subterfuge and usurping social expectation. Disguised in various different ways. It also had commentary on kind of the horrors of capitalism, what happens when you give too much power to single companies, and the gradual stripping of human rights too. Included amongst this was a really elaborate character generation system that really allowed you to create characters of wildly different body sizes, shapes, and configurations that all had their own kind of rules and ways that they interacted with the world. Which required a society to be in place that kind of respected and accommodated all of those different shapes and features. And I was very pleased with being able to kind of put together this vision of a place that had a population that was wildly diverse in its shape and its presentation, and functioned really well because of it, as opposed to despite it or regardless of it or something like that. It was a benefit to the setting. It was a feature. And I was very pleased to be able to play all sorts of different, wildly varying body types in this space. There's all sorts of things that I would love to talk about this game, and I think I'll save them for another post and just kind of introduce people to the world. But what I wanted to focus on for this one is just kind of the exercise that came from doing this in terms of sharing queer stories and discovering queer identities. HSD was not written from a queer standpoint specifically because, not unlike The Matrix or various other properties written by people who later discover what it is they're writing about, I didn't really know what I was trying to explore at the time. I was trying to look for help. I was putting out a place to play that I hoped somebody who knew what they were looking at might say something. And that kind of happened. It led me down different rabbit holes. It got me into different conversations. I met new people. And eventually various algorithms started tracking what I was looking at and feeding me additional materials so that I could learn a little bit more. And as often happens, the internet kind of led me to information that finally helped me understand what I was experiencing. But the act of putting my thoughts on paper kind of began that. the act of reaching out for community I didn't know existed, didn't know I had, didn't know I could even reach for. I had some semblance of knowledge about individuals, but not their stories, not the things that brought them to a place of realization. No knowledge of dysphoria, no knowledge of hormone replacement, any of these things. But by building a space based on what I saw in my head, a space that I felt more at home in, it attracted other people that also felt that, and trends began to appear. Remarkably, what happened when I put all that together was I started to notice a lot of trans people showing up. Weird. Sometimes writing as a queer individual is about sharing your story. Sometimes writing is about trying to invite people to share their stories. And one of the joys of tabletop gaming is getting to sit around a table with 4 or 5 other people and hear their stories, see how they react to different things, learn what brings them to certain themes, and in doing so, learn about yourself. It has been a richly rewarding process, and I will drop a link to it in bios here, and I will toss a few more videos up on my page. But yeah, this is a story of a franchise that began before I had any idea what I was doing, and its most recent book came out after I was out. The next franchise that I work on gets to start from a position of knowledge, and I'm excited to see what those stories look like now that I have experience to share.